Hello, my bookish friends. Welcome or welcome back. I am Elizabeth. This is Reading Riley, and we're doing a really fun video today. I'm reading books with a very similar theme. I'm sure you've caught on from the thumbnail. They are all coincidentally based in amusement parks. Oddly, like I was going for carnival horror, but every single book I ended up reading was set in an amusement park. Aside from one, we'll get to that. I am talking to you in the future. I will roll back to when I went through reading these books. But first, let me tell you what books I read and kind of get into the details a little bit. First of all, I do want to say if you are new here and you haven't hit that subscribe button, I would really appreciate it. It helps me out so much. Hit the like button. I'll also post my other social medias over here if you want to connect on a different social media platform. The information for these books and lots of other stuff is going to be down below, so don't forget to check that out. And I'll also break this up into chapters so you can navigate this video however you please. Let's talk about the books that I'm going to be reading in this video. First of all, okay, I gotta tell you, I tried to do 4 books, and in a sense I did 4 books, but in a sense I also did not. I started with Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. Heard such amazing things about this book, and I love Ray Bradbury. I love Fahrenheit 451. So like, let's do it. I got the audiobook, and it ended up being an adaptation via audio form. Really strange. So I'm not going to count it as having been read. I will talk about it a little bit. I'll just give you a little reel of kind of my reactions as I listen to that and kind of the general themes of it. And then we'll move on to the books that I did finish and that I did rate. And of those, we have Fantasticland by Mike Bockoven, Joyland by Stephen King, and Wonderland by Jennifer Hillier. So
all of the lands.
We are also going to rate and rank these books based on a rating system that I made up. So we're judging these books based on 1, the creep factor, how creepy this carnival/amusement theme is. For a second factor, we're going to take into account the characters in the story, how well developed they are, how much I believed their actions, because for me that's a big deal. If I don't believe that character would behave that way, then it kind of takes me out of the story. And the third factor that we're going to rank is the story overall. How did the story impact me? Did I love the story? We're going to rate them out of 5, and we're going to find out who the winner is based on that categorization. So let's do it! I'm confused. I don't think this is the audiobook. Something Wicked This Way Comes, Ray Bradbury. But it also says, with Jerry Robbins and the Colonial Radio Players. There's no narrator. I don't know if it's just this book, like how the book is written, or if this is their interpretation of this book. I mean, it's kind of cool. Am I not getting the book experience, or am I getting more of the book experience? This guy finds them on the side of the road and he's selling lightning rods, and he's like,
your house, it's gonna burn down. Everyone will die if you don't take this. I'll give it to you for free. Take it. Climb up to the top of your house and put it on there. There's a storm a-brewing tonight.
It's reminding me of The Wizard of Oz. This carnival comes to town, and they go to the carnival and it's just some weird things are happening. There's this mirror house. I don't know. They were trying to go on the merry-go-round? No, I think it was and there were these 2 strange men there, and they were like,
come back later.
I don't know. I'm so confused. I thought that was a novella, which was why it was so short. It was a 2-hour-long audiobook. That was not a novella, an audio adaptation. Why is that so fucking weird to me? It's an adaptation, but you're not watching it, you're listening to the adaptation. My brain. I spoiled myself. What is wrong with me? Oh, it's just weird. There are a lot of themes of being a good person versus being happy. If you're a good person, like, you should be happy. He doesn't understand the difference between those two and the nuance between those two. He felt like he was too old to be a dad. They're playing with time and music and turning back time and turning forward time, and this like evil demonic carnival person. I don't know, it was fine. The book's probably a lot better. Let's move on. Okay. I'm failing at this vlog right now, but I'm just gonna try to like just keep moving through and just, you know, push forward, continue on. So what had happened was I started the next book, which is Fantasticland by Bockoven, and Mike Bockoven. The treachery continues, but turns out I deleted my first update on it. That's what happens when I try to do too many things at once. So I'm going to tell you about what I said after reading the first half of it. And hopefully this makes any kind of sense when I put this all together. It's about this amusement park that's been in Florida since the 1970s. It's kind of a competitor for Disney World. But then a hurricane comes and just ravages Florida. This isolates the park. Mostly college kids work at this amusement park. Most people had been able to leave. I think it was like 200 college-aged kids that were in this park, and they have tons of supplies. They have everything they need. So like when rescue missions are coming, trying to help people in Florida after all of this terrible stuff happened, they're kind of low on the priority list to get to because they know they have everything they need and they're fine. No one has cell phones because they're not allowed to bring them into the park as employees. 5 weeks later, help comes finally. And what they find is a scene of horror. This is said to be kind of a retelling of Lord of the Flies. So I've never read Lord of the Flies, but reading this makes me want to read Lord of the Flies, especially now. So they get there and then photos soon emerge online of heads on spikes, outside of rides, and viscera, human bones littering the gift shops, just feral, barbaric
ridiculousness.
This documentary crew comes in and is interviewing all of the kids that were involved in this and putting together this documentary. So it's very much in that style of Evelyn Hugo or the Book of Cold Cases, which I've just recently read. And I'm starting to realize that I really love this style. When we first start out, we're hearing from people that are kind of in management. You hear about the guy who owns this park, and he's kind of this really eccentric, weird guy. There's different sections of the park. So there's like the pirate area, the fairy part, there's like a superhero part, there's all kinds of these different sections. And when shit goes to hell, they end up kind of separating into tribes, into their own tribes. You follow this family that did get out. This man's saying how like when they were leaving the park, when they were evacuating, his son was freaking out. And one of the pirates came up to him and said, "A pirate never quits." And it like gave his son the strength to kind of like, okay, I can do this. It's fine. It like gave him that peace of mind. And it's funny because later on in the book, that very phrase is something that the pirates repeat in order to do horrendous things. This is one of the best audiobooks I've ever listened to ever. And I don't know if it's written in there. I wish I had the physical book so I know. And every person has a different actor as well. So it adds to the kind of overall scene. But they're doing these little things. It's just little chuckles and chortles or like or like sniffling, and maybe it's just the way it's produced. I don't know. I have to look into this. If those are things that are written in, then that's more interesting too, but it just brings out this sense of vulnerability that these characters have that I really, really like. Very quickly, these kids go from being fine to like taking over, and I think I get into that in the next clip too, so I will leave it at that. I finished Fantasticland and I loved it. This book came out of nowhere. I don't even know. I just looked up amusement park or carnival horror books and this just popped up. I had no expectations, but I honestly really love this book. I love most this formatting. I love how this is told in like the interview style. It's one of my favorite things about when I watch documentaries too, because when they interview people, they show one person saying their point of view, their side of the story, what happened. And then they show another person showing their point of view, their side of the story, what happened. And when it's right next to each other and just cut right next to each other and you see how different their two experiences are or versions of their story are, and then you say, oh, so that didn't really happen like that. You start to question, like, how did it actually happen? Where is the truth in between these two things? That definitely happened. You started to form alliances in your mind, or I did at least, with some of these characters. Don't mind Denver. Whose story I heard first, and then when I heard other people's story, I started to see the holes in their logic there and the holes in their truth. But what I found interesting was the vulnerability of these kids, because if I think in like a real life situation, They explain how the setup is and how this company approached all of these people to get interviews and whatnot after what happened. But in real life, I don't know that those people would be as open as they were in the story. And maybe that's one of the advantages to having a fictional version of this. But all of these kids were so vulnerable. They told you everything, things that I don't think that I would admit to if I was in their situation, I guess. Like, I want to believe that I would admit to it, but I don't think I would. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like a morally questionable. So I don't know if that counts as a positive or a negative for this book, but I loved that they all went there. I don't know how believable that was. It was pretty terrifying. It was pretty brutal stuff. The things that these kids were doing, the things that they got away with because they had no supervision, because they took control, they took the power. The leader of the pirates was the most brutal and feared of all of these people. His logic actually makes sense. The first kill, the first death that happened was this boy who was fucking around on a roof, fell off, and basically mortally injured himself. So he was just suffering. So this guy, his logic is, well, he needs to die because we can't call an ambulance. He's just gonna suffer. So he just takes like a, you know, those heavy things that hold together the like ropes when you're in line for something, or like a banister type thing, and he just puts him over the head with it, just takes him out. And that's what starts everyone being terrified of this guy. But logically it makes sense because, you know, you don't want him to suffer. But then they have all these rules that the pirates set up. It's very much based on respect and based on earning your right to be in that group. I can't remember what the rules are, but I have a quote that I wrote down. I think this was the leader of the pirates that said this. Sometimes you have to fight, sir. There are times in life where unpleasant things are happening, and if you don't fight, you might as well be meat. Those who kill can smell those who are ripe for slaughter, and if you don't stand up, if you don't punch and kick and rip and tear, what good are you? Even though he's probably a sociopath, he kind of makes sense in a way. So I don't know, it's just like it's very thought-provoking, it's very interesting stuff. And then of course there's this like group mindset when you're in a situation like that where one thing happens that kind of stirs things up, and then one person gets scared, and it's like this self-fulfilling prophecy where everyone then is on the defense instead of working to help each other. Then it becomes this survival of the fittest, this who is stronger versus who is weak type of thing. And I just find it really cool. So we're gonna base this off of creep factor, story, and characters. For creep factor, I think I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5 creeps. For the story, I give it 5. Loved it. For the characters, I give it 5. The characters were great. I believed them all. So we have 14 out of 15 for this one so far. So let's move on to the next book. I have started reading Joyland by Stephen King. I don't know why I'm reading so much Stephen King lately. I don't particularly love Stephen King. I've read a couple of his books. I find him to be wordy. I find his writing to be kind of old-fashioned, but his ideas are always good, and I respect him as a writer, but I'm just kind of dipping my toe in, so we'll see what happens. But I'm reading Joyland. This book is also set in an amusement park. And it's funny because both of these books so far have mentioned Disney World. There's Disney World because Disney is their biggest competitor for both of these. The way this story is told is in the perspective of Devin Jones, but he's telling the story as an adult. He's a 60-year-old writer, and he's looking back on his life, and he's telling you the story from the perspective of when he was 21 years old, and he worked at this amusement park. I'm about 50% into this book right now, and it hasn't gotten particularly scary at all, but I'm interested in the story. I like Devin as a character. Devin Jones, they call him Jonesy. He has this girlfriend who he's so in love with, but she is not in love with him. So you're getting his inner thoughts on where he thinks he is, and then he tells you like how she responds to him, and you're like, no, just get out, Jonesy.
She doesn't want you.
And so he's dealing with this kind of like heartbreak, and he gets this job at Joyland. So he's staying there over the summer, and there's a lot of lore around this. There is a house of horrors that is said to be haunted. So he hears about this haunting from some of the people that work there, about how this man killed his wife while they were in the house of horrors, or his girlfriend or his wife or something, and ditched her body and came out, and he like wore 2 different layers of clothing so that when he inevitably got bloody, he could just rip off that layer of clothes, walk out, and it didn't look suspicious at all. On top of that, there's this fortune teller lady that works there, and as soon as Jonesy meets her, she gives him these things about his life. You're gonna meet a little girl with a doll and a boy with a dog, and they're both gonna have this huge impact on your life. But she also tells him there's like
darkness in his future.
And then they start to come true. These are just like little snippets. For most of this first half of the story, it's like him every day to day, what he's doing. He has to wear the fur, where he has to like dress up as this dog. It's like this dog, almost like Scooby-Doo type theme park. You know, he's losing all this weight because he's sweating in this suit in the summer, and just kind of his day-to-day interactions with people, the friends that he make. His mom has passed, and so his dad's on his own for the first time, as well as Jonesy. Yeah, like I stopped specifically so that I could update you guys. I do want to pick it back up. So it's one of those that I'm excited to pick back up. So it's a good sign. I hope it gets creepier, because right now it's like almost like a slice of life type thing. It's supposed to be horror, so I assume it will, but we shall see. And I will update you guys when I finish it. Hi. I finished Joyland last night. This is, as of now, beyond a doubt, my favorite Stephen King that I've read. So surprising. Huge turnaround after the 50% mark. Huge, huge, huge turnaround. I don't even know how to explain it to you, what I can tell you that's not spoilery. Ugh! I don't even know if this is considered a horror book, but it's so good. There are horror elements and there are supernatural elements. And not just like ghosty vibes, but also ESP vibes, which is kind of cool. One of the characters is a medium. Gosh, what can I tell you? Okay, I would say this is more of like a horror mystery, I guess. It's more of a mystery. If you're a mystery fan, check out this book, because this book is really cool. If you like a little bit of supernatural, check out this book. But it's also like really deep and heartfelt. Like I said before, it was like kind of a slice of life moment. It really is, but in the best way. I ended up so invested in Devin and his life and his experiences. Oh, this whole time he's trying to get over this girl, Wendy, who just messed him up. He's still a virgin. He's just like out in the world for the first time by himself and like exploring, like finding out who he is. Even though he's 21, he's still like learning about who he is. And he makes some friends. He has a million crushes, as you do at that age. He ends up meeting this boy, as the fortune teller predicted. There was the little girl, and then there's this boy who has a dog. And the little boy, he has a terminal illness, and he sees him like on the beach flying a kite with his mom. He can't run with it because he's in a wheelchair, and so he shows him how to get the kite up without moving, just like how to manipulate it with tension, and just makes this kid's day. And they become fast friends. These characters are integral to solving this mystery of this woman in the horror house who was killed. He makes friends with his other co-workers, and him and this other girl like get down to research. They're like,
we gotta find this out. We're gonna research. We have little tidbits, little facts here and there.
They start pulling newspapers, they start pulling pictures, they start pulling things, trying to get into the nitty-gritty of this. And Mike and his mom end up being kind of the catalyst that helps them solve this mystery. Then in the end, you realize why he, as a 60-year-old man, is telling this story. And it's like the summer of a lifetime, the summer that changed his life, the summer that changed everything. And it was so good. I loved it. So far, I'm really excited about this vlog because all of the books I'm reading, I'm really excited for. I could have like 3 5-star books out of this vlog. What if I had 3 5-star books out of this vlog? That would be insane. For the creepiness factor for Joyland, it really wasn't all that creepy. It was a little eerie, it was a little supernatural, but I wouldn't say it was creepy at all, or not much anyway. I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 5 for that. For characters, I'm gonna give it 5 out of 5. Love these characters. And for the story, I gotta give it 5 out of 5 too, because I loved it. I loved this story. So we have 12 out of 15 for this one. So as of right now, based on this criteria, Fantasticland is in the lead. I have also started Wonderland. Wonderland I am reading on my iPad, I've never read a book on here. I can't, there's no audiobook.
There's no audiobook.
People, I need y'all to work with me and give me audiobooks for horror. Why is it in the horror genre, I have so much trouble finding audiobooks? It's frustrating. So anyway, I'm reading this physically on ebook and found it on SCRIBD if you're interested. Really loving this writing. I've read 2 books from Jennifer Hillier and liked them both. I think I gave them both 4 stars. The Jar of Hearts and Little Secrets is the other one, I think. But I really, really like them both. But these chapters are really short, so I'm having a good reading experience with it so far. Chapters are really short. Each chapter is ending on kind of a little, It reminds me of John Mars, his writing style, where it's like every chapter is kind of separated. It's being told in a very specific way where it's leading you down one way, and then at the end of the chapter it's like, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you this. Bam! So I really like that. And the very first, I'm sorry, I just got out of the shower and like my hair is just being weird and just, you know, ignore me. And my AC just turned on, so apologies. So the very first chapter, it's not gonna spoil anything. We have this kid, Blake, I think is his name. He is telling you about his life and his experience with Wonderland. He grew up like obsessed with this place, and his mom passed away when he was really young. Again, a lot of like similar motifs throughout all of these books, really. So his dad got him a season pass to Wonderland when that happened, and it really helped him to get over the death of his mom. Not to get over, but to grieve. So it's always held this really special place in his heart, and so it's the day he was old enough, he got a job at Wonderland. And he's like, I love this place, and he's planning on going to college, but he met this girl who worked there, this woman really, and fell in love with her, like his first love. So he told her, I am gonna put off college. He's 18 now. He's like, I'm gonna put off college and I'm gonna stay here for another year. And then she immediately breaks up with him. So he's pissed. He is approaching the Ferris wheel. It's like the 2nd largest Ferris wheel in the world. And this is set in Seaside, Washington, I think is the name of the town. He's a free climber. He's an urban free climber. They climb things for the hell of it. Parkour! And so he's decided he's gonna quit his job. He's been completely disenfranchised by this breakup, and all of the things that mattered to him don't matter anymore, and he's gonna quit his job, and he's gonna do one last big fuck you to Wonderland and to this girl that he's dating. So he climbs this Ferris wheel. Climbs it, gets to the very top, and he takes this picture of him like leaning back. You can see the Pacific Ocean behind him, and he's just like free in the sky, and he's saying fuck you, and he's got his Wonderland uniform on, all of that. This is the break of dawn before anybody's awake. Somebody pulls up. He thinks it's security, but then before he knows it, the Ferris wheel lights turn on and it starts to move, and he loses his balance, and then that's the end of the chapter. So that's chapter 1. Henceforth, there's no more discussion of him, really. I'm on chapter 10 right now. Aside from that, we're following this woman, Vanessa, who has just moved into town. She's got some dark history. She's got some secrets. She's the new deputy sheriff. I don't know the term for it. She's got 2 kids. Everyone in this book is
Thirsty as fuck.
like, they are thirsty. Everyone's fucking everybody, okay? Vanessa, I think her husband passed away, and so she's just kind of looking to have a one-night stand. She hooks up with some random guy, and then the next morning they get a call that they find a dead body. The guy that she hooked up with turns out to be the vice president of Wonderland. That's just all in the first like 2 chapters. So yeah, just on this premise, there's so much that can happen from this. You don't know whose body that is. Apparently their face has been chewed away by like animals and stuff. It's supposed to like smell really bad, and you don't know, is this Blake? Is it not Blake? They are going into this investigation to try to figure out what happened, trying to preserve the image of Wonderland, because everyone in this small town is reliant on Wonderland for their income, for the economy, for everything. So like the police are Wonderland's bitches. They do whatever they need. They're at their beck and call, because if something happens to Wonderland, all of the like businesses and stuff will suffer. So basically they owe their livelihood to Wonderland. Also, Wonderland is real fucked up. Bianca is the CEO, and she is the daughter of the guy who initially, I don't know if he started it or if he just owned it before. I think he started it. It was his business, but he got caught for some like child abuse things and so passed it down to her. She's thirsty as fuck. She's hiring people based on, like, she was saying how they hire at Wonderland and it's not good. She said you have to be attractive, you have to be good looking, you can't be fat, you have to speak English perfectly, you can't look alternative, you can't look emo, you have to represent an all-American vibe. So that's problematic. That's gonna be fun when we get into that. I'm 10 chapters in and it's exciting so far. I really like it. I hope that I can actually take the time to sit and read this because it's really frustrating me that I have to sit down to read it and that I can't just do it while I'm doing other things, but that's a me thing. So anyway, I'll check back in with you guys later. Okay, I'm almost done with Wonderland. I'm so proud of myself for reading this physically. I am really loving this so far. I've got just about 100 pages left right now. I wanted to stop at the halfway point and talk to you guys, but I just kept going because I was enjoying it, so that's a good sign. The ending can make or break this right now. I don't know where it's going, honestly. I have no idea who the killer is. I have no idea, and it could be so many people. So this book has like everything I like in a book. It's pretty much exactly my style. It's written cleverly and concisely. It's to the point. It's got captivating protagonists with shady pasts that inevitably makes its way to the surface, and there's a big cast. It's not so big that you're completely confused, but there's a lot of people involved in this that are interconnected in this small town. So there's a lot of ways that this could go, and there's motives. Everybody has a motive. It also has really dark themes, which we know I love, and this very distinct like sociological viewpoint from the narrative perspective. This could be manipulated, obviously, because you write what you want people to perceive, and that's part of the craft. But at the very least, I think Jennifer Hillier wants me to think that she agrees with me politically. Just the way that it's written, there are people that do things that are problematic, and then there are other characters which directly oppose that. So like she's saying to me, not to me, but like, you know, to whoever, to the readers, she's saying like, I get that this is bad and I don't support that, without actually saying it. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense. It's almost social commentary, I guess. I guess it is. But it's just kind of this way of her to like use her writing as a tool to not only tell this story, but to tell how she feels about certain things, which I appreciate. Our deputy sheriff, or whatever it's called, her daughter Anna is 14 and she's working at Wonderland now. Anna is written so well because she absolutely takes me back to when I was that age. She's obsessed with One Direction. She's boy crazy. She has a roller coaster of emotions, and just the way that it's shown, I completely relate to. Even though I'm 35 years old, it takes me back so hard because I remember that angst. The angst, yeah, that's what it is, the angst. It's portrayed so well. There are also discussions about bipolar disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and other things that I think are really well nuanced in the book. Okay, so I think I was wrong before. Jack Shaw is the one who originally started this park in Seaside. So he was the like original person that created the park. Back then it was called World of Wonder, I think. So a lot of these people who are adults in the story also grew up in Seaside, also worked there when they were a kid. And Jack Shaw, he would seek out young boys that worked at the park, and he was eventually killed in a house fire, a suspicious house fire. They do tell us as we go on who was a victim of his, but Jack Shaw, when he was called out, when he was caught, he sold the park to Nick. Nick's niece, Bianca, now is the CEO. So that's kind of how the chain of events goes. But Jack Shaw, he was like John Wayne Gacy. He was like the cool uncle with the young kids. He supported their like baseball league teams outside of the amusement park, and he made these boys feel special. He made them feel seen. He would give them drugs and alcohol and take advantage of them. And just that like grooming, like you don't really learn this until like we get into it. And so I won't tell you like whose perspectives we're hearing about him from, but basically this guy was a POS. And I think the overall picture that I'm getting for this story is kind of the legacy of his abhorrent behavior and how that's kind of that cycle and that trickling down effects of this terrible, terrible person. So I think that's kind of what we're getting at with this. Do you know what I'm saying? There's also, like I said before, everyone's fucking thirsty. Everyone's thirsty as fuck in this book. So there is inevitably a few sex scenes. I gotta say, I like the way Jennifer Hillier writes these scenes. She does a really good job of describing what is happening and describing the feelings associated with that without using language that is annoying to me or like, I don't know. I've read some romances lately where I'm just like, ugh, the dirty talk and things like that. I'm like, ugh, I don't want to read that. It's not offensive to my ears, to my mind. And that's just me personally. If you love smut, then more power to you. You know, that's just like how I like to read about sex scenes, which is a weird conversation to have, but we're having it. Anyway, I like how she does it. That's strange. Okay, moving on. I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up, hopefully today, and I will check back in with you then. Okay, so I finished Wonderland. Overall, I really did enjoy this book. As far as the ending goes, it got really dark for a minute. Like, I thought it was gonna go somewhere. It didn't go quite there, but I thought it was gonna make me really uncomfortable, and it didn't. But it was still really dark. We found out who the killer was, and I think I have a little bit of an issue with that. I mean, I don't. Like, it was well done. I certainly did not expect that person to be the killer. I think I presumed probably every other character to be the killer at one point or another, suspected most of these people, except for the one it ended up being. So she obviously did a really good job of misdirecting me. That happened. This is the thing with the behavior versus the character. Did they behave in a way that I think that character would have behaved? And I don't know. I don't know. One of the things where if I were to reread it, I would have better understanding because I just was not looking in that direction at all. So I'm just slightly disappointed with the ending. I think this is going to be a 4-star for me overall. Generally speaking, I love the writing style. I am obsessed with Jennifer Hillier. I'm going to read all her books. I mean, she's a new favorite author this year. So happy to read her books. I think she is a brilliant writer. I think she is so great at storytelling and making you think one thing and then bringing out these different sides. I think most of the time the discussions that she has in her books are like everything I want to discuss. So I think she's great. But let's go ahead and get into the ratings for this. Creep factor. This one was definitely creepier than Joyland. Was it creepier than Fantasticland? Oh man, it kind of went there. You know what? I am gonna give it 5 out of 5 for creep factor because I do think it took it there. The setting was well integrated as far as the like amusement park was well integrated into it, especially towards the end. I'm gonna give it 5 for creep factor. I thought it was really good. It wasn't quite Karen Slaughter level creepy, but it was the creepiest of these 3 books, I think. Then let's talk about story. Just because I had that little issue with the end and just didn't quite go where I wanted it to go towards the end, I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5 for the story. And then let's talk about characters. I did love these characters, but again, I feel like I wish I had known more about that. Like, I know it was left out intentionally so that it would sneak up on me, but I wanted to know more about the motivations of the killer. And so for that, I'm gonna give it 4 stars. So what is that? 13. So we have 13 out of 15. There we have it. The winner of this vlog is Fantasticland by Mike Bockoven. All of these books were so good, y'all. All of these books were so good. I think overall, I'm gonna give Fantasticland 5 stars, Joyland 5 stars, and Wonderland 4 stars. I think that's how this is going to go on the Goodreads and for posterity. What a great reading vlog. How did I luck out with these? Maybe this is just my thing. Maybe I like amusement park horror. I don't even know if all of these are considered horror, but I liked it, whatever they were. I finally found a Stephen King book that I really enjoyed, that I didn't feel like was dragging and dragging and dragging. Although I did like In the Tall Grass by him, but this one just hit harder. It was, I didn't know I could get that from a Stephen King book, that like deep hearted. I cried. I don't think I mentioned you guys. I cried when I read that book. It was so good. And I think that actually, I think Joyland is gonna be one that hardcore Stephen King fans aren't going to like because it's so different. But I could be wrong, I don't know. I found a Stephen King that I really loved, so that's exciting. And I found a new author to read from. I wonder if Mike Bockoven has other books. I have never heard of this author before this, but I'm absolutely intrigued by his writing. Can't wait to look into that, see what else he has. If you know of any other books by him that are really good, please let me know down below. Definitely looking forward to that. We have another Jennifer Hillier checked off the list. So I've read 3 of her books now. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any like common tropes or themes that you want me to do a reading vlog for, I'm really interested in that. I'm probably gonna be coming out with one that has to do with the multiverse because I'm very interested in that right now, and I am craving some sci-fi. But if you have any other kind of tropes within horror or thriller, stuff like that, or even sci-fi, let me know. I will consider making a vlog with some, because I feel like this is a really good way to read some books that are backlisted, that are not necessarily ones that everyone's talking about. And another one that I should mention that I really am excited for, that I wish I could have included in this, is Hide by, I think her name's Kiersten White. That's coming out very soon, and I definitely want to read that one. And that's a similar theme to all of these as well. So if that had been out, I absolutely would have included it in this video. Anyway, I'm just babbling now. I'm gonna let you go. Don't forget that life is short. So read Riley, cheers, and goodbye! Do we say goodbye to the peoples? To the peoples? Do we say goodbye? Goodbye!